Cascade Hoops Talk, Billy D. Join us on Twitter, Cascade Hoop Talk. I hope everybody's taking care of their family and staying safe. In the meantime, just stay in and listen to Cascade Hoops Talk. Today we have Tyler Hieb. Welcome, Tyler. Senior.
Thank you.
He's a senior shooting guard and defensive specialist at Oregon Tech Hustlin' Owls. He played all 4 years at Oregon Tech, scored more than 1,200 points, hit 174 threes in his career, and it seemed every one of those was absolutely when his team needed a score. As a defensive specialist, always drawing the opponent's top scorer to guard, Tyler is regarded as one of the top defenders in the country. Welcome, Ty. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
So, Tyler, I'm going to just kind of walk through your career, similar to what I did when I talked to Seth. But really, we have to go back to the start of your career. You were Coach Parnell had just taken over for Danny Miles. You were his first recruit, and then with you he brought Seth Erickson and Mitchell Fink. You know, the program had faltered. It hadn't been to the tournament, I think, in 3 years, which is forever for Oregon Tech. When Coach Parnell brought you guys in, what was the goal for the program? What did you guys want to accomplish at Oregon Tech?
I really feel like coming in, especially with Parnell being a first-year head coach and bringing in a whole new class, we really wanted to put the program back on top, just because it had, like you'd said, been faltered. We just wanted to make sure that Oregon Tech basketball was where it was supposed to be, and we really feel like we accomplished that. I mean, over the whole 4 years, and I think that was for sure our goal.
Yeah, Ty, I could be wrong, but I think you guys went 137. I think you won well over 70% of your games while you were there.
Yeah.
And congratulations on getting Coach Parnell his 100th win. That was quite an accomplishment. And that was your 100th win, and Seth's and Mitch's as well. So let's talk about your career there, because really it was a pretty amazing 4 years. So in your freshman year, you begin your very first weekend in Cascade Conference play. You go to Corbin and Northwest Christian, and you lose 2.
Yeah.
That had to be a pretty low point.
Yeah, that was, especially just being freshmen, our first couple conference games, we realized how tough the conference is, and those first 2 games were pretty tough. I mean, as you know, Corbin is so hard to play at. We went 1-3 at Corbin, so we kind of learned pretty fast that was a hard road trip. So,
but you came back to Klamath Falls the next weekend to continue Cascade Conference play. You were able to sweep, and that sweep with Northwest and Evergreen, that sweep included a 2-overtime thriller, which a very good Northwest team. Northwest was one of the best teams in the conference at that point. Do you remember that 2-overtime game?
I do. I remember it was crazy. If I remember right, we were down maybe 6 points with a minute left, and somehow got it to overtime and ended up on double overtime. So I remember that one was definitely a good game.
Yeah, I'll never forget Mitch. That's the first time I really saw that little teardrop that Mitch shoots. He hit one in one of the overtimes to take it either into overtime or second overtime, and then one for a game winner as well. So that was a pretty exciting game. So after you lost those first 2, then you went 14 for 15 in conference. And during that run, there was a game it looked like you were going to lose. And there was this young Wilsonville freshman that shot the highest arcing 3-pointer I ever saw in my life, that went through, time was almost expired. Ty, do you remember that shot?
Yep. Yeah. That was probably one of my favorite memories at Oregon Tech, just being a freshman on the road, hitting an and 1-3 to win. That was against a very good Warner team, and that was probably one of my favorite memories here, is just coming in and hitting that shot. It was special for sure.
Tyler, I didn't think that ball was ever going to come down. That was one of the highest arcing shots I ever saw. When you did that, sometimes you would shoot a high arcing shot. Was that to avoid it getting blocked, or was that just your style? Or
yeah, because the defender was closing out pretty hard, so I knew I had to get it up to get over his hand, and then I ended up getting fouled as well. So it was pretty lucky, but I'll take it.
Yeah, well, whenever I think of that shot, I almost thought I was going to hit the rafters. I mean, it went way up there. You know who shoots a really high arcing shot? I don't know if you watch the women play very much, but that freshman Michaela Napoleon.
Yeah,
she shoots. Sometimes it looks like it might have slipped out of her hands, and then she'll make the shot. She shoots a very, very high arcing shot. But that had to be a real highlight of your career, because Warner Pacific that's not an easy place to play or win.
Oh yeah, especially Warner freshman year was really good, if I remember right, and just being able to go on the road and get a win like that was really big for us, especially during that run freshman year. That was a big win for us.
So in your freshman year, you had that 14 out of 15 run, and toward the end of the season, you had to go to your first trip to College, Idaho, and Eastern. You lost at College, Idaho, and then Saturday night, you went to Eastern. And I think you were up by 12 or 14 at halftime, and then in the second half, boy, it changed really quick. Do you remember anything about that night?
Yeah, I remember at Eastern, I hit a three at the buzzer at the end of the first half and put us up. I think we were at double digits at half, and we were really confident going second half. And then we ended up slipping away. But I remember Eastern was really good that year as well. So those were obviously two big losses for us at the end of the year. But it gave us kind of more of what to expect in the conference in the next couple of years on the road, especially.
Yeah, Kentrell Washington scored 38 points that night.
Yeah.
He was an amazing offensive player. He was extremely strong, and they kept running that spread with Kentrell at the top, and I mean, he was just really hard to stop. Even though you lost that weekend, you guys regrouped quickly, and you ended up going over to College, Idaho, and winning a playoff game over there, which I don't think anybody expected you to do when you were a freshman. What was that like?
Yeah, I remember that really well. After we were all excited, because I feel like that was a game that clinched us making the national tournament. So we were all really excited after that one, especially because nobody thought that we could win. So that was another really big one, and especially for those seniors. My freshman year, they wanted to go to the national tournament because they hadn't been. So that win was huge for them and for us.
You played in that conference champ. That gave you the chance to play in the conference championship game against Corbin, which had went on. I think they were the 8th seed, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
But you were playing at Danny Miles Court, which is usually a good omen. But Chris Martin hit 10 threes, and they were just all challenged and difficult.
Yeah, I remember that really well because I had to guard him in the second half. But he was. We tried every different kind of defender, long, lengthy. We put like 4 different dudes on him every single time. He was just making everything. So that was a tough one, but we still made the national tournament. So that was silver lining with that game.
Yeah, and so you went to the national tournament. You lost to St. Francis, was really good that year, but you got there. That was important. Oregon Tech had gotten back to the national tournament. So then in your sophomore year, you talked about the seniors, and those seniors were very important your freshman year. Those guys were really the stabilizing force, but they graduated. And so then it was you and Seth and Mitch. This was pretty much, you guys were the scoring, spearheaded the scoring. This was pretty much your team.
Yeah. But
for whatever reason, that year was one of the worst 3-point shooting years I remember with Oregon Tech. But I thought, I said this to Seth too, I thought that was almost a silver lining because you still had a very good year because you guys defended your way through it. And I think that's what made you believe in your defensive abilities. How did you see it?
Yeah, exactly. I definitely think it was a big year for me, Mitch, and Seth to build confidence because it really was our team, I feel like. And it finally was our team, so we decided that this was our year to get better and kind of learn how to run a team, how to lead a team. And I think that year really built a lot of confidence for us just because it finally was our team. It built a lot of confidence in our leadership as well.
So late in that season, again, you had to go to College, Idaho, and Eastern, but this time you swept. you swept that, one of the hardest road trips in the NAIA. Do you remember that weekend?
Yeah, that was a big one for us as well, because we had just we had beat them in the playoffs the year before, so we had confidence going over there again, and to win there back to back is pretty crazy. So that was another really big one for us, and that was the first time we ever swept that road trip. I don't know if we swept that road trip again. I think that was the only year we did. So that was big accomplishment for us for sure.
Yeah. Well, putting that road trip into perspective, as good as your Oregon Tech team was the 4 years you were there, you guys went in the regular season. You guys went 3-5 on that trip. That is a brutal trip.
Yeah.
When you think about it that way, I didn't realize it myself, Ty, until I started counting them up myself, and I thought, wow, the Owls only went 3-5 in that trip. But you did sweep them though your sophomore year. And then in your sophomore year, you were able to get to the national tournament. You lost to there was a good Briarcliff team. You lost to them, but then you came back your junior season. There was no more messing around. You guys had been together several years, and you guys went out and you won the Cascade Conference. And in that stretch, there was a critical game in Portland, and Justin Martin was on fire. I think he ended with 44 points or something like that. But in the last 2 minutes, Ty, I think you outscored him 6-0 or 9. You hit 3 3-pointers or something in the last 2 minutes to secure that victory. Do you remember hitting those shots?
I do. I don't know why, but I always seem to shoot better at Multnomah. It must be their gym or something, because they're all 3-point shooters up there too. But I always end up shooting better there. But it was that was a huge win for us. I remember. We really needed that win, and in the last couple of minutes, I was the hot hand, and I made a couple. My teammates found me, so it was that was another big one for us, and really helped us with momentum. I remember that game really was a big momentum shifter in our season.
It was a huge win. You know, I want to talk to you about you mentioned about hitting you were the hot hand at the end of the game. You know, at percentage wise, you weren't the best 3-point shooter in that group, right? In that team, but when the game was on the line, you always seem to hit the big shot. Is it?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know. I feel like I'm not sure, but my junior year in high school, I missed a huge free throw that was to send the game to overtime in the state championship, and I feel like ever since then I've always tried to work on late game shots and try and build my confidence in late game. So I think that was a big shift in mindset for me, was big shots and making sure that I make them. So I think that was a big lesson for me that I learned and really helped out in my college career.
So at the end of the season, your junior year, it came down to the last weekend, winner take all the marbles, College Idaho at Danny Miles Court, winner wins the Cascade Conference. Talk about that night.
Yeah, that night was amazing. I had a bunch of friends, family in town, and it was really special because we obviously hadn't done that before. We hadn't won the conference yet, and just to beat College of Idaho at home, which is hard to do, honestly, and just winning the conference.
Look through to see what's going on. Shot good. Mitchell Fink, 75-72. Fink's got 22 in the game. They try to get it in, and they do. They get it into Berryhill. Berryhill's going to launch a three.
No shot.
From half court. No, and Oregon Tech has won the Cascade Conference Championship by defeating College of Idaho 75-72. Berryhill just didn't have enough time to get any closer than
Great
about
defense.
42 feet.
Great defense.
Good defense by Tech. They are the champions, and in a hard-fought game.
Can I say it?
All those 3 years prior, working towards that, Parnell's first conference championship was a big one for us. And I remember the locker room after was so fun, just everybody celebrating and stuff. So that was probably my favorite win I've ever had at Oregon Tech, was that College of Idaho game at home.
And then I think it was 2-3 days later, you had to start the conference tournament. It was almost a trap game. You ended up losing to Northwest, and Northwest was a very good team, but you lost to Northwest. Yeah. But there was almost talk about that 2-week period between when you lost to Northwest, and when you started to play in Sioux Falls, what was the team's attitude? What was that 2 weeks like?
I feel like we were obviously upset with our outcome at Northwest versus Northwest. We knew that we weren't where we needed to be, and we needed to have a good 2 weeks practice before the national tournament. So we really turned up the intensity and made sure that we were ready to go for the national tournament. And I feel like those 2 weeks really made us step up our game. And going to the national tournament, we knew we had a chance to win it all, and we really wanted to make sure we gave our best effort. So those 2 weeks, we really gave it our all in preparation for the national tournament and for a deep run. So those 2 weeks were huge for us.
So you had a couple of big wins at the tournament that year. Which one do you remember most fondly?
I remember the Indiana Wesleyan one was huge for us just because we had heard about Indiana Wesleyan, how good they were, and they're a very, very, very good team.
Into the front court go the Owls. And that's how this one will wrap up. Oregon Tech knocks down the defending champion and advances with a 107-93 final. They'll await the...
For us to go out and play as well as we did, just kind of prove to ourselves that we were as good as the best. So just being able to go out and compete with them and beat them really built our confidence. And then obviously the College of Idaho game the next day was another huge win. So those two games I'll remember forever. Those were two huge wins.
So in your senior year, all the dominoes were in place. You were set to be a number one seed at the tournament. Everybody's back. You're ranked number one or number two in the nation. And then Kellen Gehrig breaks his foot. Conference begins. Kyson Faust gets hurt. Then you get hurt. Seth gets hurt. Just talk about that time. And did the personality of the team change during that time?
Yeah, it was really tough because going into the year, we had expectations of obviously being in the national championship a lot. The previous year, that was our goal all working up until the season started, was we're going to get back to the national championship and we're going to win it. So obviously Kellen and Tyson going down, that hurt a lot. And we were still playing all right. And then Seth and I go down and everybody steps up. Harrison Steiger played amazing while we were out. It was a tough time because me and Seth wanted to be playing, but the guys stepped up and really made sure that we didn't fall off too far. So that was a big time by them.
Tyler, it was absolutely amazing that you guys lost two senior starters, or assuming Kellen would have started, 3 senior starters, and probably one of the best rebounders in the country, and you still ended up getting to the tournament ranks, I think 7th in the country. That's amazing.
Yeah. We really feel like when we got everybody back that we were going to have a shot to win it again this year, just like we had thought previous, but obviously didn't get that chance. But it was tough to go out and not be able to play in my senior year for those. I think it was about 9 games, but I'm just happy that Harrison was able to step up and play amazing like he did, and Scotty as well. So it was fun to watch them.
In the second round of the conference playoffs, you went to Southern Oregon, obviously rival of Oregon Tech, 60 miles from campus. You walk in there, the gym's packed. It's kind of split between Oregon Tech and Southern Oregon. And as the game begins, everybody's on their feet cheering for their team. It's loud. You can't hardly hear yourself think in there. What was that like that night?
I don't know. It just accumulated all of my experiences at Oregon Tech. I feel like going to Oregon Tech, you always expect a huge fan turnout because we have such great fan support, and it really showed that night on the road. It just shows that the Cascade Conference is such a good conference, fun place to play, and that rivalry is just unbelievable. Southern Oregon versus Oregon Tech, it always will be, and that experience was a fun one for sure.
And I told you before we got started, but that Southern Oregon game, and then you went over to College of Idaho to play the championship game. You had to play the number one team in the nation, packed house. And I watching both games. I remember thinking back to that Eastern game that I brought up earlier when you were a freshman, watching that game thinking, there's nothing in the world can rattle these guys now. Not the College Idaho crowd, nothing. Just it was so amazing to watch your group grow up and to be to the point where, you know, not even the loudest crowd in the country could rattle you. But those were a couple of amazing games, weren't they, Ty?
Yeah, those were amazing games, and I think we always ended up playing better in front of big crowd just because we've been so accustomed to them at Oregon Tech, and it didn't really rattle us anymore. Those two games were fun to be a part of. Wish we could have got the one at College of Idaho, but obviously didn't go the way we wanted to. But yeah, those were two very good games.
So Ty, you're known as a defensive player. Who was the toughest player in the Cascade Conference for you to guard?
I would say, well, if I could say Mitchell Fink in practice was probably the hardest guy to guard. But,
no, it doesn't count.
But probably Justin Martin, honestly, just because of his three-point ability. You had to pick him up at half court, and if you were off by more than 2 feet, he's making a three. And he was definitely the hardest to guard that I had to guard. But there's obviously some other really good ones up there, but for sure Justin Martin.
Talk about the moment you found out in Sioux Falls there was no more basketball.
We actually were in our hotel rooms getting ready to go to pregame meal because we played in about, I think, in like 8 hours. We were going to get lunch, and Harrison Steiger came up and showed us, I think he saw a tweet or something, that all winter championships had been canceled, and pretty much our whole team met up in the hallway, and we were kind of in disbelief. And then Parnell texted us, and we had a meeting that was pretty emotional, just for us seniors not being able to finish out our senior year how we had kind of dreamed of. So it was pretty emotional, and it sucked, but it is what it is, and you have to respect their decision at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But it was kind of heartbreaking just not being able to even get one game there.
Tyler, what has it meant to you to be part of Oregon Tech basketball?
I mean, it's meant everything to me. I had a couple of different schools want me to go there, and choosing Oregon Tech was by far the best decision I could have ever made. Oregon Tech has amazing fan support, amazing coaching staff. The players are amazing to be around. It's a great school. I couldn't see a better place that I could have played college basketball, and it just has really meant the world to me. All my time there, and I wouldn't change it for the world.
So are you graduated yet? Tell us what you majored in.
I'm graduating in spring, and I'm operations management.
And then, so do you know what you're going to be doing?
So yeah, I have a job up in Portland for a company called PGE, Portland General Electric, as a project manager.
Oh, and you'll do very, very well at that. Well,
yeah,
Tyler,
I'm excited. It's a good opportunity.
That's a good degree to have. I mean, you'll do just fine. Tyler, I really appreciate you taking the time being on here. Thanks what you've done for Oregon Tech basketball. I've appreciated watching you through the years, and sorry to see you go, but thanks a lot for being on and giving me the time.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.